Hey everybody, it's Pastor Myers. Over the last couple of weeks, I have had several different people who have commented on the stream quality here at Grace Street Church of God, wanting to know what exactly we use and how we do it and such as that. So I figured we could take you maybe on like a behind the scenes look at what we do and how we do what we do. What we have as far as software, equipment, all of these are things that we've had to accumulate through the years, and the process by which we do what we do is stuff that I personally have spent a great deal of research, time. I've invested many days over the last few years tweaking the sound, tweaking the quality, changing settings, all of those things they sometimes call a learning curve. And so obviously there are better setups that are out there. Obviously there's better systems, but with the budget that we have, I feel like we have really accomplished quite a bit for our church. Our church will seat approximately 150 people comfortably. Our church is a little wider than some. In that regard, we have three main rows of seating. We've got about 22 2x4 fluorescent light fixtures that I plan to change out at some point, but they produce quite a bit of light. But even still, you don't have to have that much lighting to get a good stream quality. As a matter of fact, some of you that know that I've got an issue with a small brain tumor, sometimes the lighting, the fluorescent lighting kind of messes with my head and gives me a headache. So sometimes I'll come in and we have 3 rows of lights, or it's set up on a 3-phase switch. So I'll turn off the 2 sides and just run the middle, and we stream like that and it still get a good quality. So we're going to take you on behind the scenes look, just take a look at how we do things here. And if you want to fast forward at any point, that's the reason why I'm not live streaming this. You can fast forward at any given point or pause or stop. And again, this is not the only way. There are obviously better ways to do this, but this is just the way we do it. And hopefully this will help somebody to get a little better feel as to what you might do. Maybe you can use or incorporate some things that we do and then change it up, spice it up, do your own thing. So I'll share with you my thoughts on a few things and try not to make it too long, but I've got to take quite a bit of time to explain several things. So nonetheless, to all of you that have been asking me, this is a video. We've done this before, but I've had a few changes since then. So let me explain some of the things and details to you now. So this is the media booth. Let me take a step back so you can see it, that we built. I built this several years back. I don't know, probably about 6, maybe 7 years ago. Built a little ramp here. We had to make it set up so that if somebody needed to get up it with walker or wheelchair. But this is the way that I felt compelled and led by the Lord to set it up, because I felt as though that in time, in the future, we would want something that would accommodate all the different new things that would come out, and I had a goal and something in mind. So this is the way we build it. I had envisioned in my mind like the cockpit of an airplane. So you'll have to bear with us that, media booths, most of you know, they're not always perfectly house kept, but this looks pretty good considering. As you can see, we got a ton of Corona supplies. But anyway, so on my left side over here, we've got our 16-channel surveillance system. This particular monitor right here is just a duplicate of what is on our camcorder, and I'll show you why and how that is in a minute. We use a Panasonic style charger. I've tried several different ones. We use envelope batteries. This is all of our Shure microphone receivers. This is a camcorder tripod stand that I modified. I had to carefully cut it out. I picked this up at a Goodwill many years ago, and boy, this thing here has just been a jewel. But the soundboard that we're using, of course, is not as advanced as some. but it does what it needs to do, and we've done well with it. It's an Mackie, and I think it's a 22 or it's a 20 channel Mackie. The camcorder that we're using, and I'm real fond of these, is a Canon, and this is an HFG30. I personally really like the Canons because in low lighting situations, whether it's at nighttime, you don't got a lot of light coming through the windows, these produce a really good quality image. Now we used to have we started off with the HFG10, then we went to the G30. We went to the G20, and then we recently went to the G30. And I can definitely see a little bit better contrast. And this particular one, instead of the G20, which has the 10 times zoom, this has a 20 times zoom. So we can get a little bit closer and get a little bit better detail in the image. So to our right side over here, we have 3 different monitors. This is essentially the secondary monitor to our main computer. This is the main screen, and I have to set it up this way just because this is the way that the capture card worked out, and it just seems to work better this way. This is the Elgato software that we use. Let me see if I can minimize this here. And the Elgato software is tied to our Elgato HD60. You can get those on Amazon for I think around $180, maybe $190. I haven't checked the recent price on that. I don't have time to go into all the settings on the Elgato at this point because the video would just be way too long. But a couple things that I can tell you about this software. Different people will use a software. It's a free software called OBS. We don't use OBS because I've been able to stream without the need of it as a secondary step that you have to go through. And maybe it may have some other features to it, but this works pretty well for us. And I haven't had as many issues with lag and such as that. One thing you'll notice is right here, it's 2 megabytes of upload speed control. I guess I could put it that way. What that means is a lot of people, as I've explained to several in the recent days, when it comes to internet, a lot of people concern themselves with the download speed. So your internet provider may say, oh, well, we're giving you 100 download and 1 or 2 upload. Well, the thing is, if you're sitting at home and you've got Netflix, well, 100 download is great because that is the signal and the information coming from the internet back to your computer or device. Upload is what's more important for those of you that are concerned with live streaming because you want to make sure you've got more than ample signal. Some people are in places where they have no choice but to use whatever they've got. And so if you're one of those people that all you have is an internet service or provider in a rural area that doesn't have the best service, you just got to use the best you've got. I've got a good friend of mine and a family member, Brother Doug, he works the media booth for a great church, and unfortunately their signal just isn't that great, and he's not able to do some of the things or features that we're able to do. So what you have to do essentially, we have, by the way, so I don't forget this, we get 100 down through Spectrum Internet, and we get 10 up. So that's 100 down, 10 up. And that means we've got 10 megabytes to work with upload speed. I have found that for us to keep it from buffering and other issues and choppiness, if you do that, you got to set this as what will work for the speed you have. So we're having to do it at 2 megabytes. We could at times get away with bringing it up a little bit. I want to show you something here. I don't know if you can see this, but down near the bottom, as I lower the megabytes setting, you'll notice how that the settings begin to go down as far as the screen size. You got 640 by 480 P30, and the farther you go down, say for example you have a really terrible internet connection, a speed, and you got to drop it all the way to this, well then you're going to be working with 360/30. Now, some of you may say, well, what in the world does that make a big difference? Well, this is why it makes a big difference. For the people who the first thought is, man, let's go out and let's buy the most jam up, the best camera that money can buy. And then they go out and they spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on a camcorder, which I'll explain to you later. You don't need to spend that much money unless you just got the money and you want, you got the equipment to work with. But they go out and spend all that money and then they don't have the internet signal to back it up. And truth be told, they could have gone down to Best Buy or got on eBay and bought a decent quality HD camera for 150, 200 bucks and done the same exact thing as what they're capable of doing. So one thing that I have found, now I have heard that other people with different, I guess, procedures or software they may use have been able to get 1080p on Facebook Live. But my understanding is, as you see at 2 megabytes, 720 pixel, 720p30 is what we have that we're set at, and we're running that. So when you see our stream, for those of you that have watched Gray Street stream, when you see it, you're seeing it on Facebook Live and Facebook as 720 most likely. When we do it on YouTube, which is a whole nother thing I'll explain in a minute, sometimes it'll put it in 1080, sometimes 720. I don't know the reason why that sometimes it does 720. I haven't really figured that one out just yet. That's kind of, I just don't worry about it. I figure the quality is good enough for me, especially for what we're doing. This particular software with Elgato was not designed for the sole purpose of using for streaming for church services. But I have found a way to make this software work, and it works pretty well for us. So one of the things that I've done, and again, I can't go through all the settings, but I'm just giving you a general overview. So you'll notice where it says game audio here, I've got all that, I've got that turned completely down. And then live commentary is where I'm bringing my sound through the RCA cable that runs into the record microphone jack on the computer we have. So if I wanted to stream, because we have an HDMI cable on the camcorder, this is a mini HDMI on the other end of this cord where it runs underneath the sound booth, and then over to the desktop computer. On the other end is a regular HDMI jack. And one of the things you have to understand about this is that if you decide you want the sound to go through the camcorder and you're picking up all the room noise and everything else and you're not concerned with it coming off the board, then you would just use the regular game audio here, and that would be your sound off your HDMI cord. I like to bring our sound for the most part off the board, so this is the reason why on our particular board, every board is going to be a little different. We have utility out, we have auxiliary send, you have tape output, you have the headphones. You can sometimes use the headphones output, and that's what we're doing because, again, I'll show you in a minute, but we do two different type streams. We do one for Spreaker, which is an audio broadcast, and we use the other one for Facebook and YouTube. So again, that output is a signal that doesn't come through the HDMI cord, but it goes into the Elgato capture card. I know I've lost a few of you already, but maybe once you get this, if you decide to buy this, some of this will make a little bit more sense. Again, fast forward it to another part if you need to. So when I get to the editing phase, let's just say, for example, let me back up here. Let's say that we're fixing to stream a service. All I got to do, this is how simple that it is once you have it set up. When I first come in, I click this and then click it back on, because we've had times before that somebody forgot or it wasn't activated. That makes sure that the sound coming off the board is active. And when I'm ready, I either press the stream first, or either I call this a backup copy. I do one or the other first, and then the other one I wait about a second or two and then click the other. Once I press this button here to stream, it gives me an option where that it asks me essentially, well, here you can see that I need to log in again, but it allows me to make the decision whether I want to go ahead and stream. And all I've got to do is right up here is make sure that I've been signed into my Facebook account. That's how easy that is. Now, if you say, I don't really want to stream to Facebook, but I want to stream to YouTube, you'll see that's our Gray Street YouTube channel. So what you're going to do is you're just going to, if you want to stream right to YouTube, is you'll select YouTube. But here's what I do, and this works really well for me, is we do a live broadcast for Facebook. I like the ability to get the word out there and the ability for people to participate as it is happening and make comments and such as that to get the interaction. But while we are doing the live stream, I am doing a backup copy. So in the background, it's making a backup copy, which when all of this is said and done and the service is over and I stop the stream, then I can go over here to edit. And then once I go to edit, I just pick the video that I want to select. And then I go to YouTube and then I upload it to YouTube, just like that. And then after it goes to YouTube later, I'll go to my YouTube channel, make adjustments to specific, tweak it, whatever I need to do. If I don't like the image, the thumbnail that they use, I'll change the thumbnail. You'd be surprised how often these live streams and broadcasts, they'll catch a thumbnail when you got your mouth open, your eyes closed, and you look like a goofball. So anyway, so that's something to give consideration to. Hopefully I've covered most of the ins and outs of this without going into great detail of the settings. But that is our Elgato streaming. This is the router that we use. One of the things you'll notice is I've got this thing propped up. One of the things that I found out by an unfortunate circumstance, we kept going through routers through the years. I couldn't understand, why do we keep going through routers? Well, the reason is I found out through talking with a tech that knows his business. These things, if you ever put your hand underneath it, like right now I can feel there's a lot of heat that these put off. People are really bad about putting these on solid surfaces or setting them on a rag or setting them on something that will cause it to overheat. And when they start getting hot like that, the board goes out faster, and then the next thing you know, you're trying to stream a service and you can't. One thing I will tell you that I'm glad I just thought of so I don't forget, if you are able to directly connect your Ethernet cable for your internet connection to your computer, your main computer you're going to use for streaming, you're best to go directly into the modem or directly hardwired into the router. The reason being is you'll find, not always, but from what I've found, 90 or 95% of the time, when you do a stream test or a speed test, and if you want to know how to do that, just go on the internet, Google speed test, and it'll pop up, allow you to do a speed test, see what you're actually getting. So for example, like I said earlier, we have 100 download and 10 upload. So if I want to do a speed test and I'm not going hardwired through the router, what happens is my signal or my speed will be something like 70 down and 4 up. Why is that? Because if you're not hardwired, the signal is being repeated through the air, and sometimes you have a degradation in the quality of speed. Those things, I don't have the time to get into the technical aspect of it. There may even be somebody that knows more about it than I. I just know that you're best to go hardwired. I want to try to explain briefly for those of you that may not even understand this part of it. The way that the internet works, at least for us, you may have Comcast or somebody else, we have a regular cable style company, and so for us, the cable comes in off the telephone pole, down a wire to the side of the church. It comes into the church, ran through the roof, down into the media booth, and to a modem. This is our modem right here. Well, from there, you have a Ethernet cable, Cat 5, Cat 6, Cat 7, whatever, that runs up and into your router. This is many of your setups. Some are variable, but I'm just going to give you the way ours is set up. From there, the router actually transmits the signal to what we call Wi-Fi, which is a wireless internet signal. It's not wireless until it's going through some sort of routing device that can do that and send the signal into the air. Some modems do have a built-in router in them from some companies, and you don't have to have that. But nonetheless, again, you want to make sure, if you can at all possible, hardwire straight in the internet so you get the full potential of the signal. This is the third monitor, and on this particular monitor, how do you like that old school bubble effect? Isn't that wonderful? I think that I picked up that laptop, which I'll show you in a minute, which is underneath the sound booth. I got that from a pawn shop for a little over $100, and it served me real good for several years. I think it may even, I can't remember if it ever got updated to Windows 10. It may still be on 7. Anyway, this is our Spreaker broadcast, and this is the user interface for Spreaker. So when I'm ready to start, I just go over here to start, and I press offline. If I want to do it live, I do it live. We used to do Spreaker live, but I just found that for the 3 or 4 or 6 people that would jump on Spreaker live, that it really wasn't worth the time and aggravation to jeopardize the video stream, because once you start streaming here, then you start streaming here, then you start running into problems where that you may be drawing too much bandwidth from your internet and then end up causing an interruption here. While I'm thinking about it, before I forget this, another valuable piece of information: you need to guard your internet password like it is the Colonel's 7 whatever ingredient recipe for the KFC chicken. And the reason I say that is because most people don't mean it in bad intention. But if you give people the password, oh, Pastor, my kids want to play on a tablet, or Pastor, can we have the internet? I just need to do a couple things. You better be very careful with that internet password, because once you give it out and a person signs into it on their cell phone, the phones tend to automatically sign in every time they come in. So to give you, what scenario that was happening to us, this is many years back. I've learned a lot of things through trial and error. You get a whole room full of people that are coming in, and you got 10 or 15 people who the last thing they did before they walked through the door was they were watching, TikTok, or they were doing some kind of video stream, so whatever on their phone. And then they walk through the door and they got all these apps running in the background, and it signs into your Wi-Fi. And then there you are trying to stream, and you're wondering why is it cutting in and cutting out, cutting in and cutting out. The best thing for you to do is set it up to where that nobody has the password but you. But if you need to give it because you're a larger church to other people, you can set it up like Linksys has. This is getting probably a little bit too much in detail, but Linksys, Cisco has a software where you can put parental controls, which would be the same thing, or set it up as a guest network. You can set it up with time frames that people can be on it, and you can set up priority devices so that a certain device gets priority over the signal than another. So there's different things you can do when you're in a situation where you don't have a lot of choice but to give out the password. But if you don't have to, I'm just telling you best not to. So this is our desktop. It's a custom built desktop that I built a couple years ago. I don't know, it might have been 8 years ago, 7. But we originally had it on Windows 7. Matter of fact, I can see it needs to be cleaned out. It's been a while since I've blown it out. But this particular computer, it has the larger size power supply. It's got a graphics card that now is somewhat outdated, but it works good for us. You need to make sure that if you're going to do live streaming, you need to make sure that you're setting it up so that you've got a computer that will actually run what you need to run. Usually, if you get one brand new, you're probably going to be looking at $700-800 at least to get a computer that's halfway decent. I've never tried to run Elgato or the live streaming on a computer that was much less, so I can't really speak to that. This is the Elgato HD60. Not real sure if you can see that. It just seems kind of dark underneath here. But that's the Elgato HD60. And this is the other end of the cable, the HDMI cable that I told you comes off of the camcorder. It goes into the HD60. Then this cable here comes out, and this plugs into a USB port on the back of the computer or on the front of the computer. On this side, the monitor that I told you earlier, this is like a duplicate image, which is that monitor over there, so that we don't have to view the service. Whoever's chasing me around with the camera doesn't have to do it by looking at the little lens. This is our laptop that we use, and I just truncate the image to above the sound booth. This is just a setup that's worked. I could get another desktop, but this has worked okay for us. And that's pretty much it that I can think of for right now. I've probably missed something. But one of the things I will tell you about the live streaming aspect, it takes a lot of tweaking. It takes a lot of testing and trial and error, because you may look at my setup here and you go, oh, well, Brother Myers uses his volume set at 32, so let's go with 32. And hey, it might work. But the thing is that if you don't have the exact setup, exact mics, exact input, exact amps, everything, you may not get the same results, because every board's going to be a little bit different. The signal, the setup, the settings on the board, and the input, the output, all of that. So you're going to have to do some tweaking. You're going to have to be patient and work with it. But I will tell you this, most anybody that knows me is a friend of mine. If they reach out to me and I've got the time, I will be glad to say, hey, let me go to the church. I'll let you know. I'll show you the settings that we've got on our computer. And if I can help in any way, I generally do. Because to me, it's all about ministry. It's not about one-upping one another. If we can help each other, that's where the real goal should be. So if you have any questions, you can send any of your questions. If you have me as a friend on Facebook through private messenger. If you don't have me on Facebook, you don't have the private messenger option, you can always email me at brothermyers77@aol.com. So if that makes it any easier, just go to brothermyers77@aol.com. That's one of my junk mail folders, but I'll get your email. And if I've got the ability, I'll get back with you, share some information with you. The camcorders that I mentioned to you earlier, I'm a real big fan of the Canons, the HFG10, the HFG20, the HFG30, and the HFG21. The newest model that I'm aware of in that price bracket of that style and model is the HFG21. I don't know why they jumped around on it, but that's the newest one. You can find that on Amazon. I think it's somewhere around $800, but that's still a good deal, because these cameras, when they come out for this quality of camera, is usually around the price range of $1,200 to $1,500. If you're on really tight budget and you can find a used one on eBay, right now with the coronavirus and everybody wanting to live stream, it's kind of harder to find used cameras for a good price. But if you can find the HFG10 Canon, that's still a very good quality camera. The quality is just about as good as the G20, but I would go with that. I mean, that's a good camera. I've seen those go for $350, $400. I've seen the HFG20 go for $400 to $500. The G30 to go from $500 to $650, and then the G21 to go a little bit higher than the G30. Anyway, hope that's plenty of information. And my heart and thoughts, prayers are with you. Those of you dealing with coronavirus, streaming issues. Let me give you one last tip. Something that a lot of people don't think about. If you have a stationary camcorder that is in your media booth, and you don't usually have to worry about this too much, but for right now, if you're using a smartphone such as that, or a portable camcorder, always check before you go streaming, always check that you don't have a finger smudge or some kind of grease print or some filth or whatever on your camera lens. You'd be surprised how many times that people don't think about that. They just grab their cell phone, they start shooting. look at your camera lens every time you're going to stream. If you're using a smartphone, make sure that some kid didn't run by without you realizing, stick their finger on it, or somebody grabbed the phone but from the side and went to move it and stuck their finger in it, because that little bit right there can affect the whole quality of the stream. I've had times before with somebody to say, Pastor, I don't understand why our broadcast looks the way it does. And the reality is that it didn't have anything more to do with the fact they just need to clean the lens. So hopefully that was plenty of information. I've tried to think of everything I could because I don't usually have time to do these kind of videos. So I try to cram all the information in here. And God bless all of you. We'll wrap it up here.